The Legend of Jigong, Chapter 43.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to dive straight into that courtroom. We've got this scholar, Li Wenfeng, and he is just storming into the Yamen, which is the local county office.
Right, the seat of local government power.
Yeah, and his official title is Shaolin. Now, for those brushing up on their historical bureaucracy, Shaolin is this archaic, highly prestigious term for someone who has passed the provincial civil service examinations.
Which is an incredibly difficult thing to do. I mean, the pass rates were minuscule.
Yeah, it totally marks him as a member of the elite. He has immense social capital, and right now he is burning with rage.
Oh, absolutely furious.
Because his sister-in-law, Madame Zhao, who is the widow of his dead brother, has actually filed a lawsuit against him. And she was pushed into doing it by her father, Zhao Haiming.
And when you're reading this, you really have to consider the physical architecture of power that Li Wenfeng brings into that room.
Oh, totally.
The source text lingers extensively on his attire, which is critical. He isn't just showing up to court. He is asserting his class dominance.
He absolutely is. I mean, he's in his 30s, and he strides in wearing this pink silk robe with a satin finish. And it's embroidered with these 3 blue wealth and honor flowers.
The detailing is very specific.
Right. He's wearing a headscarf inlaid with jade, with double ribbons fluttering down his back, a silk sash, and these official boots with seal script patterns carved right into the soles.
That's a whole look.
It is. And it completely subverts our modern idea of legal attire, right? Today, you go to court in, like, a muted navy suit because you want to look respectful to the judge. Wenfeng is dressed like a peacock.
Yes, he wants to be seen.
My initial read was that he's like a modern tech billionaire walking into deposition wearing a $100,000 watch, you know, just to establish dominance. But it's deeper than that, isn't it?
Oh, much deeper. He is directly invoking sumptuary laws and the visual vocabulary of the literati class.
Right, because what you wore was regulated, wasn't it?
Extremely regulated. In late imperial China, what you were legally and culturally allowed to wear was strictly dictated by your exam status.
So you couldn't just buy a pink silk robe if you had the money.
Exactly. Even if you were a wealthy merchant, if you didn't have the academic rank, wearing that jade or those specific silks, and especially those seal script boots, was a crime.
Wow.
So by wearing them, he is non-verbally communicating to the magistrate, I am your peer. I am a gentleman of the empire.
He's saying we are on the same level.
Right. He is establishing a baseline of unimpeachable credibility before he even opens his mouth.
Which he desperately needs, honestly.
Yeah.
Because he is walking into a scandal that threatens to take down his entire family structure.
The stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah. Li Wenfeng announces to the magistrate that Madame Zhao, the widow, has broken the 7 grounds for divorce. And he's brought a massive bundle of physical evidence to prove it.
And we should talk about those 7 grounds for divorce, or qichu.
Let's do it. What are they?
They were the codified legal and moral justifications for terminating a marriage in that era. Things like failing to serve the parents-in-law, theft, jealousy, and crucially, adultery.
Okay, but wait. Applying this to a widow introduces a really profound socio-political wrinkle, doesn't it?
Oh, massive.
Because her husband is dead. I mean, you can't divorce a dead man.
Exactly. For a widow, maintaining chastity wasn't just a private matter of mourning or personal grief. It was a structural, economic, and social linchpin for the whole family.
It was very public.
Highly public. A chaste widow brought immense prestige, and sometimes the state would even grant tax exemptions or build state-sponsored memorial arches to honor her late husband's family.
An actual architectural monument to her chastity.
Yes. Conversely, an unchaste widow tainted the bloodline. She would completely destroy the social standing of both her marital family, the Liz, and her natal family, the Zhaos.
So Li Wenfeng is essentially accusing her of detonating a bomb in the very center of their social network.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
And his evidence is just brutal. He drops this huge bundle on the floor, and it contains a man's headscarf, a jacket, pants, shoes, and socks.
The full outfit.
Right. And he tells the magistrate, she claims to be a chaste widow living in isolation. Yet a naked man ran out of her private courtyard in the middle of the night, and I recovered the clothes he left behind.
I mean, it is the ultimate smoking gun.
It really is.
You have to remember, in an era before modern forensics, there's no DNA testing, there's no cellular location data to track who was where. Material possessions found in prohibited spaces carried absolute evidentiary weight.
Because how else would they get there?
Precisely. The very existence of male garments in the inner chambers of a widow's residence is a structural impossibility unless a massive moral breach has occurred.
Okay, but I found myself really questioning Li Wenfeng's tactical choices here.
How so?
Well, he tells the court that initially he didn't want a trial. Because his brother was dead, Li had written up a private document to legally separate Madame Zhao from the Li family on his brother's behalf.
Right, a private annulment of sorts.
Yeah. And her father, Zhao Haiming, had actually agreed to this shadow settlement. He was going to sign the paperwork, take his daughter back home, and quietly sweep the whole thing under the rug. Nobody loses face publicly.
It's a very pragmatic backroom arbitration to prevent mutual destruction.
Right, but then Zhao Haiming gets bad advice from someone, reneges on the deal, and preemptively has his daughter sue Li Wenfeng instead.
Which forces Li's hand.
But what I don't get is, why did Li Wenfeng then bring the literal clothes to the magistrate? If you want to keep a scandal quiet, why march into the center of the county government and unroll the adulterer's pants for the whole world to see?
Well, it comes down to the actual mechanics of counter-litigation in the Ming and Qing legal codes.
Okay, break that down for me.
Once Zhao Haiming filed a formal public grievance, the private arbitration was dead in the water.
The seal was broken.
Exactly. Menfeng couldn't just stand there and simply deny Zhao's claims. The burden of proof was now entirely on him to explain why the Zhao family was attacking him in the first place.
Oh, I see. He has to establish a motive for their lawsuit.
Right. He had to show the magistrate that he was the victim of a malicious preemptive strike designed specifically to cover up a capital offense.
So it's a scorched earth strategy. If they are going to drag his name into the public record, he is going to utterly obliterate theirs with physical proof.
Precisely. That bundle of clothes acts as both a shield and a sword. He is forcing the magistrate to shift the judicial gaze completely away from whatever Zhao Haiming claimed and focus directly onto the sexual purity of Madame Zhao.
And the magistrate pivots immediately. I mean, he looks at the bundle, he looks at the widow, and the hostility in the room is just instantaneous.
He doesn't hesitate.
He tells Madame Zhao, "You claim chastity, but these clothes are in your courtyard. You are wasting this court's time with a fraudulent, malicious lawsuit." And he threatens to have her dragged down and beaten with a bamboo rod right then and there.
And we really need to contextualize the threat of the bamboo rod here.
Yeah, because it's not just a slack on the wrist.
Not at all. For a woman of elite status, a judicial beating isn't merely corporal punishment. It is a very public stripping of dignity. It's a physical violation that permanently marks her as a criminal and a woman of loose morals.
So she wouldn't be able to recover from that socially.
No, the social death would be absolute and permanent.
Which is what leads to that terrifying moment we started the deep dive with. Madame Zhao does the math in her head. She realizes that if she is beaten in Kuncheng County, the Zhao family name is ruined forever.
The calculation is immediate.
Yeah. She concludes that her only viable option, her only way out, is immediate death.
But again, it's not a death of resignation, it's a death of procedural strategy.
And this is the part that completely blew my mind when I was reading the sources. She plans to commit suicide in the courtroom because she knows it will legally compel the magistrate to call in a yimpo.
Yes. The yimpo is such a crucial element here.
Right. And for anyone listening who is unfamiliar with the term, you really have to look into the history of the yimpo. It translates roughly to a female coroner or specialized examiner.
The yimpo occupies a really fascinating, somewhat paradoxical space in historical Chinese jurisprudence.
Because forensics was usually a male-dominated field, right? Like Songxi.
Exactly. The state mandated strict gender segregation. This meant that standard male coroners, like those who would follow the famous forensic manuals of Songxi, which you just mentioned, could not legally examine the intimate areas of female corpses.
So the state had to employ women for this very specific, intimate task.
Yes. And often these were older women, sometimes associated with what was called the six po, which included midwives, matchmakers, and other female professionals who moved freely between different households.
I read that they weren't exactly highly respected, though.
That's the paradox. Elite society often viewed them with deep suspicion. They were considered lower class or prone to gossip because they moved in and out of private spaces so much.
But the courts needed them.
Desperately. In a legal crisis involving a female body, the state bestowed upon these women the immense power of forensic verification. Their word became medical law.
And Madame Zhao, kneeling in that courtroom, believes that this specific post-mortem physical examination is the only thing that can irrefutably prove her innocence.
Right, because she knows her own words mean nothing against that huge bundle of men's clothes.
Yeah. She believes only the physical reality of her corpse, documented by a state-appointed female official, can save her reputation.
It reveals such a harrowing legal economy, doesn't it? She is completely trapped by circumstantial physical evidence. And the only way she can counter physical evidence is with superior physical evidence.
It's her own body.
Exactly. But because societal rules prevent a physical examination while she is alive in order to protect her modesty, her body only becomes legally useful to her once she vacates it.
Man, she has to trade her life to activate her defense.
It's the ultimate paradox. You literally have to die to prove you are living correctly.
But before she actually pulls the knife, she plays her last living card. She tells the magistrate, wait, I have an alibi. I don't sleep alone. I share a bed with Madame Lee, who is the wet nurse for my child. She can vouch for my absolute purity.
So she introduces a witness whose physical proximity to her at night theoretically negates any possibility of a secret rendezvous.
Right. So the magistrate summons Madame Lee, and the text provides this incredible study in class and behavior when she arrives.
Oh, the contrast is stark.
Madame Lee walks in, and she's in her 30s, wearing a plain blue shirt and a black skirt, completely unadorned. She is a hired laborer, starkly contrasting with the elites in the room.
No jade headbands for her.
Nope. She drops to her knees and immediately tries to play the victim card. She's like, oh, the mistress sued. Well, I came to cry out my own injustice.
She's desperately trying to decouple her fate from Madame Zhao's sinking ship before the interrogation even begins.
But the magistrate is not having it. He asks her directly about the naked man and the bundle of clothes. And Madame Lee instantly throws up a wall. She says, I don't know anything about any men. I wasn't there. I took a leave of absence and went home.
And this triggers a masterclass in ancient forensic interrogation. The text specifically notes that the magistrate applies the technique of listening to the tone, observing the face.
Right. What's the term for that?
Tingxing Chayan. It's a foundational concept in classical bureaucratic training. A magistrate wasn't just an administrator pushing papers. He was expected to be a psychological profiler.
Kind of like a human lie detector.
Very much so. He is actively observing her microexpressions, the cadence of her speech, the physical tells of deception as she speaks.
Because he knows her story makes zero biological or economic sense. When she claims she was on leave, he actually slams his warning block on the desk. You know, the wooden gavel designed to shock the witness.
It's a great theatrical move.
It works. He screams at her, you are a wet nurse. Your entire job is to feed an infant. Are you telling this court you just abandoned a nursing child to starve so you could take a vacation?
It's an irrefutable logical trap. The magistrate zeroes in on the fundamental biological reality of her employment.
Right, because babies need to eat constantly.
Exactly. The wet nurse industry existed because elite women outsourced lactation. The infant's very survival depends on her constant presence. A casual day off simply does not exist in the architecture of that specific labor contract.
It's not like taking a personal day at an office.
No. By highlighting the impossibility of her absence, he forces her to admit that her departure was entirely unnatural.
I found myself wondering when I read this, like, how terrified must you be of your employer to actually leave a hungry baby behind, knowing the trouble it could cause?
Very terrified. And Madame Lee breaks under the magistrate's pressure. She reveals the sheer coercion she faced.
Yeah, she tells the court she isn't just some transient worker who doesn't care.
Yeah.
She lives locally, she has a husband who travels for work, a mother-in-law to support, and she even mentioned she recently suffered the tragedy of losing her own young daughter.
Which is an important detail.
Yeah.
She is establishing her roots in the community to prove she isn't a flight risk or a professional grifter. But more importantly, she is contextualizing her vulnerability.
Exactly. She explains that the first time Madame Zhao told her to take a day off, she actually pushed back. She told her mistress, the young master is delicate. He'll starve.
And how did Madame Zhao react to that perfectly reasonable concern?
She gave the wet nurse the silent treatment for 2 days. She created a hostile work environment just to punish her for doing her job too well.
It is a textbook demonstration of soft power and psychological manipulation within a household hierarchy.
Just freezing her out.
Right. The employer makes the emotional atmosphere of the home completely unbearable until the subordinate finally complies.
So the next time it happens, Madame Lee is too intimidated to say no. But it wasn't just intimidation. Madame Zhao pulls out the carrot too. She pays Madame Lee 2 strings of cash and a bundle of old clothes to leave for the night.
And that injection of hard currency transforms this from an unusual domestic dispute into a highly suspicious transactional cover-up.
Let's talk about the money for a second, because I want you to give us some context. What does 2 strings of cash actually mean to someone like Madame Lee in this time period?
So, in the historical copper currency system, a string of cash theoretically held 1,000 individual copper coins.
Wow, so that's heavy.
Physically very heavy, yes. 2 strings is a substantial amount of weight to carry, and it's a massive injection of wealth for a working-class family.
It's not just like $20 to go see a movie.
No, it's not tip money. It is hush money.
Uh,
It represents months of standard labor wages. When an employer hands you that much money and says, leave the premises, the implication of illicit activity is deafening.
And it gets even worse. Madame Lee testifies that just yesterday, Madame Zhao demanded she leave again. And Madame Lee even tried to argue based on the civic calendar.
Right.
She said, but today is the magistrate's birthday. Nobody takes off today.
I love that detail because it shows the wet nurse is keenly aware of the unnatural timing of all this.
The rhythm of the town is entirely dictated by the bureaucratic calendar. Using the magistrate's birthday as an excuse highlights her desperation to find a logical, unarguable reason to stay in the house. But Madame Zhao doesn't care about the magistrate's birthday. She just ups the bribe to 3 strings of cash to get her out.
She needs the room empty.
Exactly. Yeah. So put yourself in the magistrate's shoes sitting at that bench. You have a widow claiming absolute purity, but you've just traced a paper trail, or a copper trail, really, of escalating bribes used to systematically clear the only adult witness out of her private chambers.
The magistrate is basically constructing a profile of premeditation. The evidence is entirely circumstantial at this point, but the behavioral economics are damning.
Yeah, the math doesn't lie.
You do not pay triple wages to abandon a hungry infant unless the presence of that witness poses an existential threat to whatever you have planned for that evening. He has reverse-engineered the crime through financial coercion.
He traps her using class dynamics. He knows the wealthy widow leveraged her capital against the poor wet nurse's economic precarity. It is brilliant.
It's very astute jurisprudence.
So the magistrate turns back to Madame Zhao, having completely dismantled her alibi. Explain the bribes, he demands.
And Madame Zhao's defense is an absolute marvel of desperate, weaponized Confucianism.
It's staggering. She looks the magistrate right in the eye and claims altruism. She says, I am a widow with a bitter fate. Madame Lee's husband just returned from his travels. I pitied them. I wanted them to have private time as husband and wife. I was simply doing good deeds in secret as heaven is my witness.
She attempts to recontextualize her bribery as profound benevolence. She is invoking the moral high ground of a virtuous employer caring for the familial bonds of her servants.
But it is an incredibly brittle defense.
Oh, it shatters instantly.
Right, because the magistrate knows there are men's clothes sitting in her courtyard. Altruism doesn't explain the pants.
Exactly.
He hits his breaking point. He stops the interrogation, orders the guards to seize her, and sentences her to immediate beating to extract the truth.
The bureaucratic machinery has locked onto her destruction.
And this is where the theoretical threat becomes physical reality.
Mm-hmm.
Madame Zhao realizes the game is over. She pulls the hidden ice.
And the scene just explodes.
The text describes the sheer chaos. She curses the magistrate, screaming that if he fails to have her body examined by the Yimpo, his descendants will suffer karmic retribution for his blindness to the truth.
We really must pause on the severity of that curse.
Yeah, let's unpack that. Because it sounds like she's just yelling out of anger, but it's deeper.
Much deeper. In a society anchored by ancestral worship and lineage, threatening a man's descendants with cosmic punishment is the nuclear option.
She goes right for his legacy.
She is not attacking his career. She is attacking his immortality. She is weaponizing the spiritual realm because the temporal legal system has completely failed her.
Wow. But before she can do it, a guard manages to tackle her and disarm her at the last possible second.
Just barely be.
The courtroom is an absolute pandemonium. The magistrate is likely reeling from the realization that he almost had a high-profile suicide and a devastating spiritual curse on his hands.
He's probably terrified.
The tension is unbearable. You're waiting to see how this gets resolved. Is she going to be beaten? Is she going to try again?
And the narrative brilliantly refuses to resolve it.
Right. Because from outside the yamen doors, over all the screaming in the courtroom, someone starts shouting, "Injustice! Murder for money! Great magistrate, hear my grievance!"
The author executes a flawless structural pivot here.
The magistrate immediately uses this new crisis as an out. He orders everyone from the chastity case thrown into the holding cells. He says murder takes
A
precedence.
very convenient excuse.
Totally. The entire courtroom drama is put on ice. We are left hanging over the cliff, and the text violently yanks us into a parallel storyline.
Which introduces us to a completely different methodology of investigation and a completely different kind of investigator.
Yes. We jump to the wealthy estate of Zhao Fengming, and walking up to his massive gates is Jigong, the monk, and he's leading a man whose eyes are glazed over.
A sudden shift in tone.
Very sudden. The text flashes back briefly to explain how Jigong even ended up here, and the setup is pure comedy.
It relies heavily on subverting the visual expectations of power and competence.
So, Zhao Fengming is the second brother of a highly influential family. His mother has gone completely blind. He is waiting at his estate because his servants have returned from the capital, supposedly bringing a master physician to cure her.
And you can imagine Zhao Fengming expects someone who looks like Li Wenfeng from the courtroom.
Exactly. Silk robes, dignified, projecting authority. Someone who looks like they charge a lot of money.
He anticipates that medical mastery will be packaged in the traditional aesthetic of the elite scholar-physician.
But instead, he looks at Jigong. And the text describes the monk as shabby beyond belief. His clothes are tattered, he looks unwashed, he basically looks like a vagrant who wandered off the street.
A total shock to the system.
Zhao Fengming is internally panicking, thinking his servants have been scammed by a beggar. But because he is bound by these strict elite hospitality rules, he invites Jigong into the study anyway.
And then the servants deliver the counterweight to Jigong's ragged appearance, which is the letter.
Oh, this letter is everything. It is from Zhao Fengshan, the elder brother, who is a prefect, which is a high-ranking imperial official.
A very serious position.
And the language of the letter is exquisitely formal. He writes of weeping day and night because state duties keep him from his mother's side while her pupils are covered.
It is a performance of profound filial piety, which is the core Confucian virtue, expressed through the bureaucratic tension of serving the emperor versus serving the parent.
And to bridge that gap, the prefect sends 50 taels of gold along with the monk.
We really need to quantify that amount for a second. 50 taels of gold is an astronomical sum.
Like, how much are we talking?
It is generational wealth. It is enough to buy vast tracts of land or fund a sprawling estate. Sending this much gold is a massive declaration of the stakes involved. He is not sparing any expense.
Right. And the letter introduces the ragged monk sitting in the room. The prefect calls him Zen Master Jigong from the famous Lingian temple. He explicitly states that Jigong is expert in Qiwang. Now, I dug into that term. It doesn't just mean a doctor, does it?
No, Qi Huang refers to Qi Bo and Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor.
Uh-huh.
They are the legendary foundational figures of traditional Chinese medical theory. The Yellow Emperor's inner canon is the absolute bedrock text of all medicine in this culture.
So is high praise.
The highest. To be called an expert in Qi Huang by a prefect means you aren't just some local herbalist. You are a master of the fundamental cosmic principles of health and disease.
The cognitive dissonance for Zhao Fengming must be paralyzing. Why would a prefect, a man who navigates the cutthroat, hyper-formal world of imperial politics, entrust a fortune in gold and his mother's life to a guy who looks like he sleeps in a ditch?
This is where we encounter the profound cultural archetype of the crazy monk, or the enlightened fool.
Right, it's a trope, isn't it?
Very much so. In the tradition of Chan or Zen Buddhism, immense spiritual authority is often deliberately decoupled from worldly aesthetics.
So the dirtier you are, the holier you are.
In a way, yes. In fact, an obsession with pristine silk robes and jade is viewed as a material attachment that actively clouds true perception.
So his poverty is actually his credential.
Exactly. High officials often patronize these eccentric figures because they believed the monks operated on a higher frequency, completely unburdened by the rigid Confucian orthodoxies that restricted the officials themselves.
That makes a lot of sense.
Jigong's tattered clothing is a deliberate disruptive filter. It forces the observer to abandon their reliance on superficial evidence.
Think about the parallel here. In the courtroom, the magistrate is blinded by superficial evidence, the clothes left in the courtyard. Here, Zhao Fengming is initially blinded by the superficial evidence of the tattered robes.
The thematic resonance is amazing.
The text is demanding that you, the reader, learn to look deeper.
It is an epistemological test. How do you know what is true when your own eyes deceive you?
And Zhao Fengming passes the initial test. He reads the letter, suspends his disbelief, and bows to Jigong. He asks, "Holy monk, how will you cure her blindness?" And Jigong just smiles and says, I have my own methods.
Which sets the stage for one of the most bizarre and brilliant sequences of deductive reasoning in the entire text.
It's so good. So they're sitting in the study, and they hear heavy footsteps approaching. Jigong points toward the door before the person even enters. A bulky farmhand walks in.
A stark contrast to the monk and the wealthy host.
Yeah, he's got this bullheart hair bun. He's wearing rough clothes and heavy black shoes. He is clearly a laborer straight from the rice paddies.
He represents the absolute bottom of the social hierarchy in this room, standing before a wealthy landowner and an elite-sponsored monk.
But Jigong doesn't even say hello. He points right at the farmhand and accuses him of theft. He yells, "You stole my shoes. I heard your footsteps the second you walked in, and I recognized my shoes."
It is a preposterous, aggressive accusation designed to instantly destabilize the room.
The farmhand is furious, and rightly so. He says, "Monk, you're trying to extort me. These are my shoes." But Jigong weaves this elaborate, highly specific fiction.
He builds a whole narrative.
He does. He says, "I walked all the way from Linen. I couldn't wear these flimsy grass sandals I have on now. I wear those heavy black shoes you have. I took them off at the gate to be polite, and you stole them."
And we know from the narrative context that Jigong is lying here. He is constructing an alternate reality specifically to lay a trap.
Right. He challenges the farmhand. He says, "If they are your shoes, prove it. Give me a physical detail about them." And the farmhand, thinking he is dealing with just a crazy beggar, confidently states, "My shoe has 14 nails on the bottom."
Now, the farmhand relies on the general knowledge of his own caste here. Peasant shoes often had iron nails driven into the soles for traction in the mud. 14 might be a very standard estimate.
But the moment he commits to a number, the trap snaps shut. Jigong counters immediately. "Wrong. My shoe has 16 nails."
The reveal.
Yes. The farmhand rips his shoe off, counts the nails right there in the study, and the text delivers the punchline. There are exactly 16 nails.
The farmhand is completely neutralized by his own admission.
I was trying to map the logic of this interaction because it is just so clever. My first thought was it's like a TV detective tricking a suspect into a confession. But it's actually much more sophisticated than that.
It really is.
It's like a cryptographic zero-knowledge proof or an asymmetrical information trap in a contract negotiation.
Walk me through that framework. How do you see it?
Well, think of it this way. The farmhand possesses the shoes, which is the physical evidence of ownership, right? He has them on his feet.
Yes.
But Jigong introduces a hidden variable, the specific nail count. He knows that human beings rarely possess granular data about mundane objects they use every day. Like, have you ever counted the treads on the bottom of your sneakers?
Of course not. You rely on the assumption of ownership rather than empirical verification.
Exactly. You just know they're yours.
Yeah.
Jigong, through either supernatural perception or just hypervigilant observation, acquires the granular data. 16 nails.
He sees what others don't.
Yes. By forcing the farmhand to guess a detail about his own property and letting him guess wrong, Jigong invalidates the physical evidence of possession. He doesn't prove the shoes are his, he proves the farmhand lacks the data to claim them.
That is brilliant.
He engineers a scenario where the opponent legally defeats himself.
It is an exquisite maneuver. He leverages asymmetrical information to override conventional property rights entirely.
So Zhao Fengming, the wealthy host, is watching all of this unfold, and he just wants the yelling to stop in his house. He hands the furious farmhand 2 strings of cash.
Ironically, the exact same amount the wet nurse was bribed with initially in the other story.
Oh, wow, I didn't even catch that parallel. That's amazing. Yeah, he hands him the 2 strings of cash and tells him to go buy new shoes so the monk can just keep these dirty ones. The farmhand leaves, totally baffled and angry.
The conflict is resolved through elite capital once again, but the underlying mystery of Jigong's intent remains.
Right, because Zhao Fengming asks the question. We are all screaming at the text. "Holy monk, why did you just extort a dirty pair of shoes from a farmhand?"
And what does Jigong do?
He laughs. He says, "To cure the old lady's blindness, I absolutely require these specific shoes," and then grabs a brush, writes a medical prescription, and hands it to Zhao Fengming.
And the text explicitly notes that Zhao Fengming looks at the prescription and secretly nods in understanding.
I stopped reading and just stared at the wall for a minute when I got to this part. He understands. How on earth do dirty farmhand shoes cure cataracts?